Good evening, viewers and listeners on JCTV Africa. Thank you so much for joining us on this wonderful program where we talk about issues that are happening in and around Zimbabwe. And thank you for tuning in. As we promised you this evening, we are going to be having Senator Douglas Mwonzora so that he can keep us abreast on the developments that has happened in his party and what their plans towards 2033 agenda, how this going to unpack a lot of things, and also how they plan as a party to approach this 2030 agenda. But before we go there, we also have some headlines that we have today. It has been proven or by UNISA that Prophet Walter Magaya doctorate, UNISA have said that they do not have Prophet Walter Magaya in their records as a recipient of a doctorate from that institution. So very, very interesting there. And also, as I'm talking to you right now, there is a statement by the War Veterans National Chairperson, Comrade Sifas Ncube. He has clarified that the person who made the utterances, who is Mr. Blessed Geza, is not part of their association. So very conflicting statements there. You hear him saying that saying that he's not part of the association, but yesterday the Minister of Information, Jen Van Mswere, said he is our cadre. So there is a lot of confusion there within one party. But anyway, we are going to see that how it unfolds in due course. But to help us unpack the story of 2030, which is the topic for these days, I have with me Senator Douglas Mwonzora, who is our guest today. He's not a first timer here. He has been on this platform quite some time. Senator Mwonzora, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you very much. It is good to see you, and I want to thank you for inviting me to this platform where I hope to share with the people of Zimbabwe the dangers that are awaiting our country. And at this point in time, if you could allow me to share my condolences to Mbuya Chihera. She was our cadre in Glenview. We lost her today. So we want to convey our condolences indeed. She was a cadre. She was a very, very active person in Glenview. I knew her even before independence and after independence. She has always been a very, very strong person. So we will miss him.
Definitely. Such a radical person who was speaking truth to power until her death.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah. Take us through. You are the one of the chairpersons, or one of the people that wrote the constitution. You were part of COPAC. And in drafting this constitution, you worked with other people from ZANU-PF, including the likes of Mr. Jacob Mudenda. How does it make you feel now looking at what is happening, the amendment of the constitution, when you thought this was a milestone for Zimbabwe to see term limits being applied to presidents? How does it make you feel as somebody who maybe spend sleepless nights drafting this constitution?
It is a very sad moment for Zimbabwe. One has to look at how the constitution came about. We must remember that in 2008, we had an election in which the MDC won, after which there was a lot of violence during the run-off election, where we lost about 300 youngsters. MDC alone, 300 people were killed in that election. And then there were negotiations the culminating in the global political agreement, which provided for the drafting of the constitution. The constitution was supposed to be a people-driven and democratically driven constitution. So it is important that we understand that we didn't just write the constitution, we enlisted the views of the Zimbabwean people. And the Zimbabwean people were so emphatic about the issue of term limits. They were
All right.
guided by recent history where President Mugabe had been presiding over the affairs of the nation, disastrously so, for quite a long time. So the people of Zimbabwe were very, very emphatic that there should be limited terms. And that is why you see it in the founding values, in the constitution, you see it in the preamble, you then see it in the body of the constitution, and you also see it at the end of the constitution. This shows that this was a very, very serious thing. So the fact that these people are now tampering with the constitution, and by the way, it's not ZANU-PF, entirely ZANU-PF. It is a small section of ZANU-PF who are benefiting by their close proximity to the president. Some of them are ministers, and they fear maybe that if somebody else comes, they won't be ministers. And then you have people who are making a lot of money through corrupt deals, through getting tenders, and they think that if this feeding trough goes, then they will not be able to feed. And then, of course, we have members of the opposition, members of parliament, who have been a serious disappointment for the nation. They were promised an uncontested term in an end term. So this constitution, this constitutional amendment is driven by self-interest. And because it is driven by self-interest, it is very sad indeed. Constitutions are built out of the distrust of politicians, and they should not be amended willy-nilly. If we allow this amendment, it will open a very, very bad precedent. Right now, people are talking about 2030. They started talking about 2030, and I'm sure you have heard now that they've shifted a gear up. They are now on 2033. Now, what will stop the next president from declaring himself president for life? And then a president after that will say himself, his son, and his son should succeed him. And then the next president will say his clan or his family should be the people who should run the affairs of the country. It's a very, very sad development indeed. And I hope that Zimbabweans understand the gravity of the situation.
All right. That is my biggest concern. Do the ordinary men in the street understand how grave this matter is? Because from maybe the conversations that people are having, it looks like there is, sort of like apathy to talk about this. In your assessment, in your engagement with people, how are people looking at this conversation of 2033 or 2030? How are people viewing it? Do you think that people understand how we are in for another probably Paul Biya or Theodore Obiangwema or another president for life? Do people understand the gravity of this matter?
It is important, say, to understand that this agenda is not coming from the people. The people have not been consulted. It is a few elements within ZANU-PF who want to please the president because they want favors. And the opposition, Triple C, has also not consulted anyone. So this is not coming from the people themselves. And they have little understanding about what exactly this is for. It has not been explained to them why it is important to change the constitution. Zimbabweans are enmeshed in deeper problems to them. The problems of poor service delivery, unemployment, poverty. Companies are closing. I'm sure you see what is happening in OK Bazaars. I think M. Richards has closed some branches, and Triangle is going to downsize. So people of Zimbabwe are going through a lot. They are going through the serious poverty and misery. And to them, that is what is priority. They are surprised, the few that we've talked to, they are surprised that the government that they look forward to, look up to deal with their lot, to change their lot, to deal with their problems, is busy lengthening the term of office for itself, that the MPs who must provide oversight, instead of doing that, are busy trying to get an extra term that is an end, that is unelected. So it is critically important that we have an advocacy program to tell the people of Zimbabwe what this thing is all about. That is why the MDC is starting a program that is going to be rolling out very, very soon, of going to the people and explaining to the people what this amendment means to them, what how it's going to affect the image of Zimbabwe, which is already bad in the eyes of the international community, and how this amendment is going to exacerbate Zimbabwe's international isolation. And more importantly, how dangerous this amendment is, in the sense that it is already causing instability in ZANU-PF. It is causing instability in the institutions that support ZANU-PF. That is the war veterans. Already, they've spoken with different voices here. There is a group that is very, very emphatic that this is a no-go area, that they do not accept this sudden need to change the constitution. So the people of Zimbabwe have to be told, they have to be told that the president himself told international forums that he was not going to run again, that he was going to respect the constitution. He took an oath three times. Now, President Mnangagwa has taken an oath for presidency 3 times. During those times that he was taking oath, he was swearing to defend and uphold the constitution of Zimbabwe. And suddenly, if this amendment is to go, then the president is abrogating, one, his constitutional duty as president, which is to uphold the constitution. Number 2, the pledge that he made to the international community that he was going to respect the terms of office. What he said himself, number 3, to, I think it was a meeting in Mutare, where he said that he is a constitutionalist, etc. If this amendment goes, then the president is going back on his word, and we must never have leaders like that. So this is going to be worrying to the people of Zimbabwe. It means that we are going to have referendums, 2 referendums for that matter, to deal with this amendment. The first referendum will be a referendum, a simple yes/no referendum, where we will be voting on whether a presidential term of office must be extended. And then after that, we are going to have another referendum, because the constitution says that even if the referendum, the first referendum, adopts an amendment that extends terms of office, that amendment does not benefit the incumbent. Now, if they want President Mnangagwa specifically to benefit from that, then we will have to do the second referendum, which is person-specific, asking people of Zimbabwe whether or not President Mnangagwa must be allowed to run again. Now, those referendums, as you know, are elections.
Before you go, Senator, before you go there, I was actually coming to that question, that what is the plan of action in that regard? Can you help us understand, when you were drafting this constitution, when you put these clauses or these trying, maybe we can say, the impediments or maybe humps to try and stop any possibility of this, it may bring us into confidence, since you are a part of this. What was going through what was the conversation around that, to make sure that when you have had these clauses in the constitution to say there has to be a referendum in referendum number 1 and then referendum number 2, what really was in your mind or in the mind of the people who when you were drafting this constitution? Can you just bring us into confidence before you come to explain how the process works?
Yes, thank you so much. We wanted to put into effect the demand by the people of Zimbabwe, which was overwhelming. The demand that the highest officer of the land must have a limited term, that the president must be elected. That's number 1. The president must be elected. He will have executive power. He will not be easily removed except through an impeachment process. But that he will run for a 5-year term. And after those 5 years, he can seek re-election and be elected for another 5. And after which he has to go away. So the reason why we drafted in the manner you see it in the Constitution was to make it very, very, very difficult for anybody who wanted to change that clause and to lengthen the terms of office to do so. So first, by a very, very elaborate process of amendment of the Constitution. And then number 2, that amendment should not benefit the incumbent. At that point in time, we were seeking to incentivize the incumbent from changing the Constitution, because it wouldn't benefit them anyway. And then to say, if they were for some reason able to pass that hurdle, then it has to be difficult again, because you then go back to the people in a second referendum, which will be done after 6 months of the first referendum, and go with a specific name. And if people of Zimbabwe are not coerced, if people of Zimbabwe are reasoning on their own, they will, in all probability, reject this. So that was the thinking by the drafters, and we were unanimous. We were 6 at that point in time. That was myself, Paul Mangwana of ZANU-PF, myself representing the MDC, Jacob Ndeda, who is now the Speaker of Parliament for ZANU-PF, the late Alex Magaisa for MDC-T, Edward Mukosi for MDC Green, and Josephat Chuma for MDC Green. And when we drafted this, we were serious about the future of Zimbabwe, because we are not writing this constitution for our generation. We were writing this constitution for future generations. And to say, how are they going to relate to one another as far as power is concerned? How are they going to govern one another? How are they going to exercise executive power? And I think that if we look at the age of the president that we put in the Constitution, the president must be at least 40 years of age. And we did not put a maximum. But we thought that if a person runs the affairs of the nation as president for 10 years, that is enough. And we went on to provide for the benefits of the former president, for the ex-president. That ex-president will get the same salary as the sitting president. So we thought that, materially speaking, this will incentivize the sitting president to move away. After all, we did not want our former president to be destitute. But that means that anybody who is a sitting president and who wants to continue beyond the 2 terms is doing this out of greed.
So maybe you spoke about the war veterans and disunity inside ZANU-PF. Do you think at all, because there is a rhetoric that is going on, that the president has said it, that he is not going to seek another mandate, and people that are speaking this, they is within their constitutional right? But my question to you, as a politician, it is somebody we have dealt with politicians from ZANU-PF and opposition. Do you think that the president is not interested in extending his term? Are these people speaking out of a desire to get favors, or they are Nicodemously being sent to actually solicit for the third term from the people, or try to coerce people to do that? What do you make of the frame of mind of the president, since he is not responding? His last response was, "I am not interested." Do you think he's not really interested?
No, I don't think he is not interested. We all know the organism called ZANU-PF is not new to us. And ZANU-PF is very commandist. It emphasizes on discipline. It is very rare in ZANU-PF to see people going against the will of the president. And if you notice that when the president said that he's not interested, it is his close associates, the likes of Minister Muda, Owen Ngobe, the likes of people like Tatenda Mawetera, and so on and so on, Daniel Garwe, and so on. These are people close to the president, July Mono. These are people very, very close to the president. And these are the first people to carry the wishes of the president. And they would not want to embarrass the president openly by going against him. That's number one. So that's a telltale sign that the president, while the president is saying that he doesn't want, he is behind the scenes giving a go-ahead for people to campaign for this. And also, although he spoke at Congress, he didn't say it himself at Congress. He told Patrick Chinamasa, he allowed the debate to happen in his presence. At Precab Farm, where he was, the MPs spoke in his face. And in one of the videos, he is actually clapping. And that is not the behavior of someone who is serious about not wanting this. President Mnangagwa is a lawyer, and we do respect that fact. And I am surprised that as a lawyer that he is, he does not see the dangers that he's putting the nation into. One, he says no, and then his government acts completely the opposite way. This is the first time that ZANU-PF is doing this. So that's why we say the president is indicating left while turning right. He should have just stopped this stupidity by just standing up in front of those MPs and telling them that there is a constitution which he is going to respect. But the MPs from the opposition, from his own political party, went to his house, to his farm, and said that he was going to stand for 2030, and now it's 2033. And we now know that the Minister of Justice, the Minister Ziyambi, is preparing a bill to send to Parliament. Now, rarely does a minister prepare a bill without the specific assent of the president. And by the way, although we know ZANU-PF, it is the people who are inside ZANU-PF who will even know it better. The war veterans are like Mr. Blessing Gezi. He is a member of the Central Committee of ZANU-PF. He is an ex-freedom fighter. He is also an ex-soldier. He is an ex-MP of ZANU-PF. And where is he getting this from? Where are the war veterans who are livid about this plan getting this from. It can't be false. And by the way, the people who have responded either to the war veterans or to us have not discounted that the 2030 agenda is there. All they've said is that, yes, it is us who want it, the president doesn't want it, he's a constitutionalist. And here, the people of Zimbabwe must know what is coming. One day, the president is going to say that he did not want, but he was persuaded or forced into the third term by other people. We all know that. If the people say I should, who am I to refuse? This is what we are being prepared for. And I think Zimbabweans must frown at this. And I just hope, if I had my way, I would see President Mnangagwa and tell him that he should not soil the legacy that he had built in his presidency by doing this at the very last minute. This is so sad. He is going to leave this country in a mess. His party is already in a mess. And of course, it's the ruling party which has access to weapons, which has access to many, many things. And the possibility of civil strife emanating from ZANU-PF exists. And the possibility of civil strife emanating from a disaffected populace exists. And why are we taking that risk as the people of Zimbabwe?
Right. That is a very, very, very crucial question. And I would want to ask you, Mr. Senator, that now you have said you have got a plan that you want to launch in order maybe to conscientize people on what they need to do to prepare them or to give them education, so to say, because this referendum is quite different from going to election. Can you take us into the process of how this works and give Zimbabweans a bit of knowledge of what they need to prepare for so that maybe they can stop the this 2030 agenda? Senator Mwonzora. I think we have lost Senator Mwonzora there. He was giving us a bit of information on what is happening and how the president is saying is indicating left but turning right. That was the conversation there. So we still have some questions. If you want to be part of this conversation, please send us your WhatsApp and a voice note to the senator. He is part of the COPAC. He was part of the COPAC that drafted this constitution that you are seeing now. Senator, are you back?
Yes, I'm back.
All right. So I had posed the question that now what you have set a plan in motion to say we want to achieve ABCD. The question that I had asked you was to, elucidate the Zimbabweans on what are the processes that they need to prepare for, because we know this is not like a normal election. It's a referendum. If it happens or if it has been set in motion, what are the ways of Zimbabweans stopping ZANU-PF from sweeping the majority and making and voting yes, and we see the president and then go to the next referendum? Surely by then it will be water under the bridge. We have to wait. What is the process that Zimbabweans can undergo through now in order to stop this?
The first thing is that Zimbabweans must adhere to the principles of peace. We don't want violence from any quarter. And that is why we are worried that some political parties have started, they've started the program of violence. And we suspect that this program of violence is being done with the referendum in mind. These people want the referendum to go ZANU-PF's way. and they are preparing the nation for violence, so that when violence is unleashed at a larger scale during the referendum, ZANU-PF will be blaming the opposition. So it is critically important that the people of Zimbabwe don't fall for this bait. And more importantly, that the MDC does not respond to this provocation. Therefore, we are going to be advocating for peace. Number two, we want to unite all the progressive forces who are against the desecration of our constitution. The churches, the civil society, political parties, the war veterans, and even people from ZANU-PF who are opposed to this. We must unite to defend our constitution. We are not attacking anyone. We are not fighting against anyone. We are defending what is ours. Then it is also important that we must have advocacy, where we are explaining to the people what exactly it is that is at stake. First of all, what does our constitution say? Their constitution say. Number two, what is being proposed? Number three, why is it objectionable that we should have such an amendment? So that when the people go to referendum, they must go with their eyes open. Most of the dictators pry on the ignorance of the masses. They will be fed with false things. For example, the false narrative is that the government has done so well under President Mnangagwa. He is doing so well that the people of Zimbabwe must give him another chance. But that is false. Okay, Bazaars is on the brink of collapse. N. Richards is collapsing. I think it has closed some branches now. Triangle is downsizing, is collapsing as well. So industry is collapsing, and joblessness is being exacerbated. There is a lot of poverty. There is a lot of misery. There is a selectivity in the distribution of food aid right now in this country. Last year, 500,000 people were unable to go to school because their parents could not afford. We suspect that the statistics this year is even worse. So Zimbabwe has better problems, if I may put it that way. Has more pressing problems to deal with than focusing on increasing power or extending the term of office of people who are already have power and privilege. By the way, President Mnangagwa is 83. He was a minister, he has been a minister, since 1980. He is 83 now. In 2028, he will be 86. Why on earth would we want to give a person who is 86 another 5 years to run the affairs of the nation? When is he going to write his memoirs? When is he going to rest? When are we going to deal with the legacy? When is he going to nurture the next leader? When is he going to give advice to the other presidents? When are we going to have the pleasure of seeing former presidents at functions? Look at what the Americans did during I think it was the funeral of the late President Jimmy Carter. There was Obama, there was Clinton, there was George Bush, and there was Trump, because Trump is former president and president as well. All there and being a pride of their nation. Zimbabwe is being robbed of that. Zimbabweans want peace, and but unfortunately, people are stoking civil war. And I also think that this violence that has been started, it is being started at funerals and so on, and it is going to exacerbate. This violence is going to lead to bigger violence, which is going to make the government have an excuse to put a state of emergency. When a state of emergency has been declared, the constitution is partly suspended. So we must be very careful about people who want to cause violence in this country. And already there are telltale signs that that violence is going to be there. At the burial at the Heroes Acre, there was discord within ZANU-PF itself. A certain section was singing what was interpreted as pro Mnangagwa songs, and the other section was singing what was interpreted as pro Vice President Chiwenga's faction of the party. And that is very dangerous for the country. Some people in ZANU-PF were saying, why, Mwonzora, should you be worried about what is happening in our party? We are worried because if the ruling party and the fallout, the discord within the ruling party and the conflict within it has far-reaching consequences for the nation of Zimbabwe. Instead of running the affairs of the nation, dealing with the problems of poverty, unemployment, capital flight, Zimbabwe is internationally isolated. Instead of dealing with those problems, people are busy dealing with power games within their party.
All right. You touched something that is very, very crucial about violence or possible violence. And you have been at the receiving end. Some of your members have been in hospital. Have you tried to engage? You said we spoke to your spokesperson on Saturday, and they said that Advocate Nelson Chamisa was there. After this incident, have you tried to engage Advocate Nelson Chamisa and try to show him that, look, they shouldn't be fighting amongst ourselves to such an extent that we get to try to kill each other? Have you engaged him on the path of peace that you are speaking about?
Advocate Chamisa was there when I arrived and when I was attacked. He is a lawyer, for God's sake. Agent Gumbo is an MP. He's a lawyer as well. He was there when I was being subjected to this attack. And Denford Gadzore is a counselor, was there when the attacks were being done. Nobody, not one of them, uttered a word for their people to stop the attack. And that means that the attack happened with their blessing. And this is not the first time that we are being subjected to life-threatening situations. In Humanikwa, at the burial of Morgan Tsvangirai, they wanted to burn me and Senator and Kupe in a hut. Senator Kupe, Senator Chief Ndlovu, Honorable Abednego Bebe, and myself were in a hut that Advocate Chamisa's supporters tried to set on fire. So this has gone beyond simple political disputation. It is outright murder. It is outright crime. It is outright banditry, if I may put it that way. So I have not spoken to Advocate Chamisa. I was expecting him to stop his people, that's number one, to condemn what had happened, and so that it will not happen again. Instead of doing that, he posts on his Twitter account the image of a bull that is roving the veldt, as if referring to himself. And that is very, very sad indeed. So I have not spoken to them because they are the aggressors. They are in the wrong. Their supporters were wrong. They almost murdered Preston Ngabaya, who was only operated on yesterday. And this was a delicate head operation. His skull was crushed by a stone, by a person who was wearing a t-shirt of having the face of Advocate Chamisa. My car was attacked by a person who was wearing unmistakably the image of Advocate Chamisa. So there is no question that this was condoned by their party. And adding to that, even in at the burial, some MP was attacked. Dr. Cooper was not even able to get to the venue, and so on. So it is very, very difficult under those circumstances. But we have spoken to our people, the MDC people, that there is no need to retaliate, because it is very possible to retaliate and easy to retaliate. Advocate Chamisa does have cars, doesn't he? He runs a car dealership, and with hundreds of cars, it's easy to go there, sabotage his business. And we have said to our people that they must not retaliate, they must not engage in violence, because they were miffed about what had happened. But coming to the question of the important question of working together, we have
Yes.
said as the MDC that we are prepared to work with all progressive forces for the purposes of defending the Constitution. So if Chamisa wants to defend the Constitution the way we do, then he is welcome. We can work with him. There is no problem, because Zimbabwe is more important than Douglas Mwonzora. But of course, there is a certain element, there's a certain measure of behavior that is expected of leaders. Nothing has come from their party to denounce what happened. I'm also surprised that some civil society organizations have just kept quiet about what has happened and so on. And I can tell you that if it was the MDC, if the MDC dared to fight back, they would focus on the MDC, and this is unfair. But we want to work together, whether we fought yesterday or we tried to kill each other, doesn't matter. What is important is that the future of our children is at stake, and we must work together. So we are prepared to work with everyone who is opposed, genuinely opposed to this program. Because there are some people who speak against 2030 while promoting things that will make 2030 a reality. If you divide the opposition, especially by engaging in violence against the other members of the opposition, you are destroying opposition unity and therefore the broad alliance that must fight this menace that is coming. And of course, if you send people on Twitter to denigrate other people, to downplay this very, very important message, if you send people to do that, you are being a danger to the program, which is a program of the people. So we just hope that everybody sees the importance of the bigger picture. We in the MDC, we see the importance of the bigger picture. That's why we are saying to our brothers, just to quote Isaiah, come and let us reason together. We are happy about the stance taken by the church, certain civil society organizations, the War Veterans Association, and some people within ZANU-PF who have said that this is a red line for the government.
All right. For the benefit of our viewers, we have something that is graphic here that we are going to show you the images of those men who were attacked that you are seeing on the screen there. That is what happened on Saturday. That is the images. Apologies.
And that's a screwdriver. That's a screwdriver that went through that person.
And that is another image there again. And this is your car that was attacked. That is your car that was attacked. And that is the skull injury that we are seeing there.
Part of it,
yeah. Very, very brazen violence that we can see here, which is very, very unfortunate. And we hope that people can put that back and work together. Now, let us look at your as we conclude this show, Mr. Mwonzora, what is happening inside ZANU-PF. We see what we have interpreted that the vice president is flexing his muscles What do you foresee? You saw how the 2017 unfolded. Are we not being taken for another drama that will see the exclusion of the opposition, whereby it looks like they are fighting each other, but in a way they are just trying to change the attention of the people? What do you make of the statements by VP and the chaos that you were describing that happened at the National Heroes Acre?
Nothing can be discounted. Nothing can be discounted at all. There are a number of interpretations. Number one, that the vice president was flexing his muscles and 2017 is possible. That's one interpretation. The other interpretation is that although there may not be 2017, there's going to be so much resistance within ZANU-PF itself, and this resistance is going to boil down into internal conflict, such that we will have something worse than 2017, a civil strife that will happen. To what degree, I do not know. But the point is that why would President Mnangagwa, being a lawyer as he is, put us in this risk when his one word would settle this issue? He has to bring to order the people who speak in his name. The people who are asking, who are talking about the 2030, are doing that in the name of the president. Why is it not coming down on them? Why all of a sudden are they saying that it is freedom of expression? To what end? By the way, I heard the Minister of Justice saying the people who are saying that have the right to say that. That's not correct entirely, because our constitution, which gives rights, says that these rights are subject to the rights of others. In this case, the collective right that was voted for by 93.5% of the people of Zimbabwe. So there is a danger, whatever way you look at it, that number one, people in government, including ministers, are now concentrating on the third term instead of concentrating on service delivery. You saw
Yeah.
Minister, I think it was Minister Mavekera, the lady,
Yes.
she has a very, very important ministry now, the Ministry of ICT. The world is
Yeah.
going towards that. The world is going towards artificial intelligence, cyber crime, etc., etc. She has an unfathomable responsibility. And what is she doing? She is expending her energy on the third term. And this is a tragedy indeed.
Yeah, I was checking. There was a tweet by Kudzai Mtisi. He quoted the minister of ICT in Rwanda at the World Economic Forum, and he was saying that what we have in Zimbabwe is a travesty, really, whereby we have our minister in ICT is focusing on the third term, whilst the ministers in other countries they are so articulate, and they are so they know what they're doing. Even though she's a lady, one people would say no, she doesn't deserve it. But the minister of Rwanda in ICT really proved something else, that she knows her stuff. Yeah, you can go ahead with what you were talking about.
Yes, it is a question of this is a question of competency, and that is the tragedy, because some ministers may think that they owe their promotion to an office, to a person.
Yeah.
They may privately know that they don't deserve the appointment, and
All right.
they are so thankful that they have the appointment. And when things like this come in, the only way they can prove their worth is going to be more Mnangagwa than Mnangagwa himself. You know, Mnangagwa himself is actually exercising restraint, at least in public. He is saying that he's a constitutionalist, that he doesn't want the third term, that he understands that this is wrong. That's what basically President Mnangagwa is saying. And he probably will go, he may not mean it, but at least in public, he is making that posture. Unlike most of these ministers, and it's not Minister Mawetera alone who appears to be in the wrong ministry. There are quite a number of ministers who are out of their wits, out of their game when it comes to their ministries. I am very surprised that Minister Ziyambi has not advised the president that this is wrong, that the amendment of the constitution is going to cost quite a lot. There will be campaigns there will be campaigns for or against the no vote. Both campaigners, sets of campaigners, are going to expend resources. Civil society is going to expend resources towards this no campaign. The pro-government people are going to expend resources in the yes campaign. All these resources could have been put to better use. And the government is going to spend millions. We saw them spending millions in procurement during the 2023 election. All that brazen corruption is going to come back. And the cost is going to be borne by the Zimbabwean person, by the person who is already downtrodden. Already, we are being overtaxed. A villager from my village phoned me today to ask me whether it is true that he was going to be taxed, his goats, his sheep, his cattle. They were now subject to taxation. That's what he was asking me. Yes, Zimbabweans are now overtaxed a lot. And yet this money is going to be used to sponsor a campaign to increase the term of office and to disenfranchise the people of Zimbabwe. Because what the third term will do is that it is going to disenfranchise the people of Zimbabwe. Some people think that it is going to simply say the president continues without an election. And that is disenfranchising us. People of Zimbabwe want to vote. There is an important term that we used in the constitution, and that term is sovereignty of the people. The importance of the sovereignty of the people to make decisions. And for this third term, the people are not going to have that voice.
Right. There is an argument, although in the amongst the people, to say, why go to elections when there are no electoral reforms? You are one of the people with your party who pulled out of the elections because you said that the ground is not fair for everyone, and the electoral reforms have not yet been implemented yet. One would say, why are you invested in elections when there are no electoral reforms? Why not allow this whole process of maybe more than 7 years to work on the electoral reforms? What do you have to say about that? If people are talking about, say, we know the outcome that is going to come if we go to 2028 elections.
Exactly, sir. The discourse, the political discourse that must be there right now should be electoral reforms. That is why some of us are part of the national electoral reform agenda, so that we have electoral reforms that will culminate in free, fair, and credible elections. This is what we must be debating about. And it is not true that electoral reforms require 5 years or 2 years to implement. The electoral reforms that are needed in Zimbabwe may not even take 6 months to implement. For example, if one wants to bring the diaspora vote as an amendment, it requires simple legislation, simple manual on how to make the diaspora vote safe. What do you need 2 years for to implement that? And the other electoral reform, equal access to the media, state media. Why does anybody even want more than a day to implement that, to institute that? The electoral reform that says that there must not be violence, that it talks about the need to make sure that the contesting parties have access to the electoral material, at least as far as securely as possible. You have knowledge about where the ballot papers are being printed, how many have been printed, by which company, why was it chosen. Why should people not have that information? And if we were to say people should have that information, it does not take us 2 years. So those who are saying that there have to be electoral reforms first must start talking about what these electoral reforms are. We are still about 3 years to 2028, and we can
Yeah,
institute
20.
these electoral reforms. This is what the opposition in parliament must be busying themselves with. Instead, they are focusing on the wrong thing. And the wrong thing is to lengthen the terms of office of people who have been improperly elected. If we accept that 2023 was unfree and unfair, and that it was characterized by chicanery and so on, we are we are rewarding the political offenders, the electoral offenders, by another term, and it doesn't make sense to me.
Maybe just to, something that just came to my mind now. The question is, don't you think that this subject of the 2030 could be a decoy to the masses, so that we don't talk about the electoral reforms, and you talk of the first referendum being in 2020, 2025, and the second one in 2026, possibly. By the time we get to 2026, and then maybe this plan or fails, or it crumbles, would there be enough time to then say, okay, this has failed, we now have to go to the elections, we are now in 2027? Do you think there will be enough time to look at electoral reforms and implement them, or there will be now more excuses? And could talk of resources that would have been wasted during that time of maybe the government to say we don't have money for diaspora vote, or something like that. Don't you foresee that we could be given a green light in some way, but the plan is to say we don't want to talk about electoral reforms in the interim until 2028. So let us talk about something else that enrage people and look like it's an important subject. And then we get to 2028, nobody's ready, and we just go and we win. So the plan would have worked.
Yes. In fact, I don't think that it is a decoy at all, because there are telltale signs that there are factions within ZANU-PF that are entrenched in this 2030 agenda. And I don't think that they are bluffing at all. Some of them, I know them, and they've spoken to them. They are very serious about this. But yes, the danger that this is also a way of avoiding electoral reforms. And it will be avoided this way, that we go for referendum, we spend a lot of money in the referendum, and the referendum votes against the amendment. You see, let's say the referendum says no to the presidential term, and then people will be, maybe for 1 year, people are celebrating. You know what Zimbabweans are like? They are
Yes.
celebrating the no vote, and forgetting that the election is coming in a few months' time. So it is important that the opposition must be vigilant. That is why part of our plan is to have the National Electoral Reform Agenda, the NERA program, start in earnest. And we were supposed to meet as NERA on Monday. Unfortunately, because of the disturbances that had taken place on Saturday, it was very difficult for me to participate there, because I still had people who were in hospital, and a few expenses to repair. You know, that car is a brand new one. I bought it in December, and somebody just came and damaged it. For whatever reason it is. There
And
is the
any action from
funeral of.
and any action from the police, any word from the police, if they issued anything or effected any arrests or put out a statement on this matter?
The police have not arrested anyone. They have not put out any statement as far as we are concerned. And what this shows is that these people, whoever they are, they acted in connivance with the state. They are
Mhm.
working together. That is why there is a slow arrest. Had this been a genuine opposition operation, people would have been raided in no time.
Mm,
We know the alacrity of the ZRP when it is swooping on people who have nothing to do with government. We know the sluggish nature of this government when it is dealing with its friends. So Zimbabweans,
mm,
I hope they are seeing that we may have a very, very disturbing phenomenon where people masquerade as the opposition, where they are in effect helping the ruling party. Why start violence ahead of
mm,
a no yes campaign? Why start violence
mm,
when it is imperative that we should all unite against a common issue, a common enemy? Again,
mm,
this should make us open our eyes and
mm,
say, I, when I saw the attack on Saturday, it had all the hallmarks of a well-rehearsed attack.
mm,
It was very, very well done, if I may put it in that way, in inverted commas, in the sense that it was very elaborate. They
mm,
destroyed what they wanted to destroy, and with precision as well. They were able to. They knew that they would not overpower my guards as long as I was still out of the car. They
mm,
let me get into the car. They let all the other guards get into the car except one, and then they pulled him out and started assaulting him. They wanted to stab him with a knife, an okapi knife. Yet
mm,
one of the guards not jumped to stop that. There was an
mm,
okapi there that cut the hand of one of my guards, Malvin Maganga,
mm,
and the screwdriver that went into the mouth was aiming at the jugular vein.
oh,
Had it just progressed 4 or 5 centimeters, he was going to go into the jugular via the
mm,
mouth.
mm, 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 mm.
Yes,
Very, very, very sad.
these are very, very skilled killers, if I may put that
Mm.
way. Yes.
Very, very sad indeed. That is the images there that you are seeing on the screen, our viewers and listeners. Senator, I hope we are going to not. This is not going to be the last time that we are going to be having you concerning this issue of the constitution. Very, very crucial subject and something that Zimbabweans need to take seriously and look at because it will affect our generation to come. Any last words before we let you go? Obviously, we are not going to have you for now only. As I said, we are going to have you so that you can abreast the nation on what steps need to be taken based on the developments that would have happened. We are going to be engaging you in due course. Any last words before we go?
Yeah, just to say that the person you see in the last image, Preston Mabaya, who has a bandage, was operated on yesterday successfully, and we want to thank the doctors at Salim Gabe Hospital for the work, wonderful work which they did. It was a
Mm,
very, very delicate operation because it involved them taking the bone debris away from the brain, and any mistake would be fatal. So we are very, very happy that our cadre is recovering. But to the people of Zimbabwe, I want to say that it is time that we must close ranks. Whoever
mm,
you are, whatever your political persuasion is, whatever your religious persuasion is, the future of the country is at stake. We must close ranks and act in a peaceful but responsible manner. Make sure that everybody understands what this constitutional amendment is going to do, the damage it is going to do to our country. To understand the dangers of doing nothing, we must unite and defend our constitution. The sitting president was given a mandate to run the affairs of the country up to 2028. Nobody has disturbed him. We have not disturbed him in the opposition. But some people within his party wanted to extend that term of office. And as they say, if a law be unjust and unfair, it is the positive duty of all right-thinking citizens to disobey it, to prevent it. Let's prevent this amendment. It is vile, it is evil, and it will consign us forever to a place where we are a laughing stock of the world. We deserve national pride as the people of Zimbabwe. We are an intelligent lot. We are a resilient lot, and that must be seen. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you. That was Senator Douglas Mwonzora giving us his time here on JCTV Africa to just keep the nation abreast of the developments that we are seeing and the conversation that is raging of the 2033 or 2030 extension of the president's term. Very, 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 very important. Thank you so much, Senator, for that. Hopefully, we are going to hear from you very soon. I will try to engage people from the Nelson Advocate Nelson Chamisa's camp to find out what do they have to say about the violence that they unleashed on your people, and we wish your guards and the people in your party a quick recovery in that have been affected by that violence. Apologies to you and to the family. Hopefully that they will get well soon.
Oh, thank you so much.
All right. It's a pleasure. That was Senator Douglas Mwonzora talking to us here today on the issue of the presidential extension term and how the people are seeing it. Hopefully you are going to participate. You are going to tell a friend that what does the constitutional amendment mean, and how are we going to participate? Because it is very, very important. And I've said in my previous installment that, look, as much as this is happening, we also need to take cognizance of the cost, how much it is going to cost Zimbabweans. And not only that, we must also know that ZANU-PF played us once in 2017, and they say once beaten, twice shy. You must understand that we might be taken for a ride, and then at the end, we find ourselves in a situation whereby we are wondering the 2033 will just happen again. So that is all that we have for you tonight. Thank you so much for everyone that participated. I'm not going to be reading some of your comments because some of you are just negative, but we want positivity here because I believe that all of us need to be working towards a certain direction that bring progress to our country. That being said, thank you so much for joining us, and I want to thank my guest, Senator Douglas Mwonzora, for being part of this conversation. I'll see you on the next video. Goodbye for now.